So I didn't skip the episodes. My upper limit actually wrote them for me because sometimes the moment that you don't show up is the exact moment that your truth. Here we go. Sometimes it's muted, sometimes it's not. So I'm going to start over. So I didn't skip the episodes this week, these last 2 weeks. My upper limit actually wrote them for me because sometimes the moment that you don't show up is the exact moment that your truth is trying to get your attention. Hmm. Welcome to the Coming Home to You Sparkcast, where joy is medicine, healing is sacred, and remembrance, that's a superpower. This is a sanctuary, a space where you don't have to perform, you don't have to prove, or you don't even have to have it all figured out. You just get to be in the process. You get to be real. Most importantly, you get to come home to you. So take a breath with me right now. Inhale, hold it in, and have a slow exhale. And allow yourself just to arrive in this moment. Today, I want to start with something real. And first, I want to welcome Keri Knudtson to the show today. But I want to start with something real because this episode wasn't planned to be like this. I was supposed to record 2 episodes this past 2 weeks. It was the body and the soul on blossoming in voice. And I didn't. And for a moment, I actually wanted it to mean something about me. How many times do you make your choices mean something about who you are as a person? It's like I did this, I wasn't disciplined, I was procrastinating, maybe I just wasn't showing up. I'm not the leader that I say that I am. Like there's so much that shows up in our space when we are not our word. And as a leader, that even hits harder. But something showed up for me this time instead. I actually paused and I reflected. Instead of judging and criticizing myself, I just got curious. And I was asking myself, what is in my awareness? What is trying to show up right now? As I'm talking, like it's interesting. I'm talking about blossoming in voice. Like, why am I not showing up, blossoming in my voice? Have you ever had that moment where you didn't follow through and your instincts were to judge yourself? So instead of judging, I got curious, like I said. So something really deep and profound happened. It wasn't my schedule, but it was actually showing up in my relationships and in my body and in my voice. There have been moments recently where I could feel myself wanting to respond, to defend, to explain, even to be understood. And instead, I've been practicing something new. I've been pausing. I've been breathing, taking a moment to just breathe and listen to my body. How often do we like avoid or override our bodies? So I started regulating and I started to choose to not react immediately, allowing myself to feel what's actually happening underneath the story that we want to tell ourselves. And what I realized is this: blossoming blossoming in my conscious I started blossoming in my consciousness and my awareness and in my voice. And so I needed to catch up to where I currently am. And sometimes that really takes you listening and not judging yourself and just getting neutral about what is going on. It's not about speaking louder or proving your point, but actually learning how to stay with yourself long enough to respond from truth, respond from love, and even integrity instead of reacting. How many of us spend so much time reacting to life like it's happening to you? So, what actually happens for you when you feel misunderstood? Do you rush to explain yourself or do you pause long enough to understand yourself first. So this is where it clicked for me. I didn't record those episodes because I was off track. I hit my upper limit because blossoming in my voice meant that I couldn't keep operating the same way that I had been. And you can't keep over explaining, over performing, even over giving, trying to be understood, trying to get it right, to be right. So where in your life are you still performing instead of just being? Hmm. That's what's been emerging for me. That's something deeper. I'm no longer trying to do it right. I'm allowing myself just to be in the mess because life is messy and it's okay. So I want to feel it. I want to live in it. I want to embody it. And I've been coming back to the things that are actually me, my zone of genius, which is movement, breath, authenticity, voice, expression, like joy. Joy is my superpower. Not because I have to or I should, but because it's actually where my truth and purpose lives. And today, I want to bring it back to you. Where are you trying to perform in your life and overgiving? It doesn't mean that you're out of alignment. It just means that life is inviting you to go a little deeper. And today I want to introduce Keri in the Trinity of Truth because it's evolving right before my eyes. And it's okay. Like I thought that I had to do it a certain way because this is how I've been doing it. But no, life gets to evolve. And so does your career. And Keri is one of those. A woman who started listening to herself, a woman who started to really coming home to the truth of who she was and her mission in this life. And she evolved as she did in her career. And it's not about having a conversation that feels performative. It's really just about being true in whatever comes up. Because that is how your mind, body, and soul operates. So I couldn't have had a more perfect guest on the show today to have this conversation with you. Keri Knudtson is someone who really bridges these worlds beautifully, the mind, body, and soul. She understands mindset in a deep level, having worked in high performance environments. She also holds a powerful connection to energy, intuition, and the soul. She walked the path of healing from Reiki and energy work into Akashic wisdom and conscious leadership. She doesn't just teach transformation, she embodies it through and through. So I want you to help me welcome Keri today. I'm so honored to have you. Can you just give a few words to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Margarita, for having me here on the podcast, Trinity of Truth. Wow. That within itself is the foundation, I believe, for myself and us all to move forward, the Trinity of Truth. How more can I introduce myself? That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. And it helped remind me of where I've been and where I'm evolving day by day. And transformation isn't necessarily a destination, it's an evolution. So there's no beginning and end, just like there's no right or wrong. And that is what truth is. Now, in my own journey of transformational leadership, of transforming careers, embodying my own truth, disconnecting from the mind and reconnecting with the soul, I came back home to self. And that question is, how do we come back to self? I'm curious, how do we all come back to self, come back to home? And where is home?
Mm. Oh my God, that is so real. How many of us had lost our identity of who we are? Like whether we like for me, when I became a mother, I just lost my identity of who's Margarita now? Like where it was home. And then I started believing other people's perception of like who and what I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do, that I started listening and doing certain things to people please, that I actually lost my identity. So how do we come home to ourselves, Keri?
Well, I see this picture right here, and this picture in our background, for those that are watching visually, it reminds me, like when I think of home back to Keri, I think about reconnecting with this 6-year-old, 7-year-old self, maybe even the 3 or 4-year-old self, where the veil was very thin and perhaps the veil didn't even exist. There was such a connection to who I was, my soul, and I don't share this often, but I had an imaginary friend. Did you ever have this imaginary friend? And everyone in my family, and I remember really like the person I could connect with at 3 and 4 was my imaginary friend. And ironically, that imaginary friend was named Lisa. Now, my sister's Lisa, but this imaginary friend was not the same Lisa as my sister. And I'm bringing this up because at this time of like 3, 4, when I had my imaginary friend, the veil did not exist. The veil was very thin or it did not exist. So there was a connection to another soul there. And I believe that when we're connected with our own soul and connected with our soul's path, that's where home exists. Now, we have this body that we get to navigate through life in and our mind. So that's where it gets complicated. That's where the home gets messy. That's where the home we question the chaos of the home at times. So that was a long way of saying where is home? Who are we? I imagine home as this remembrance of that little girl. And she looks like the background in our meeting here. And for those that can't see the visual, it's that little girl inside you, or a boy. What do you
Yeah.
think is the home?
No, you hit it right. You hit it right on the mark. I knew as a child. I knew as that 6, 7, 8-year-old child what I was, my purpose, what I was here for, what my intention was for coming. And somewhere along the lines, like I said earlier, like I just started believing the masks that I started putting on to be liked, to fit in, to please others, because I felt that that was safe, because it wasn't safe to be me. It wasn't safe to have these dreams. Like, especially as an artist, how many times are we told, no, find something that's tangible? Like, you can't be an artist. You can't be a starving artist. Like, there's all
Yeah.
these things, right? And so, somewhere along the lines, as we grow up, we realize we are so disconnected from our truth, from our soul's purpose, that we start to actually operate from a false identity. And that's why this whole podcast now as the embodied leader was born. Like last season, if you look at the backgrounds, it was the woman coming home to herself. But like in the embodied series, I'm realizing like that's the inner child. The inner child that we put away and is still looking for approval, still looking to be seen, still waiting to be held in her truth and in her joy. So I'm just getting chills on where this conversation's going, because how many times I want to ask the audience actor actually, like, what is your mind saying to you? Especially right before you're about to speak your truth. Is it telling you it's not safe? Is it telling you that person's not going to like me if I say this? Because in that moment is when we're trying to expand. And that I said something recently in a meeting I was in a room. And I was like, like if we treat each other so like with gentle gloves, but I think that we are doing a disservice to our people. Like it's actually more loving to speak our truth and being like, hey, excuse me, you just said something and it made me feel kind of not good about it. This is how you're showing up for me right now. Like imagine, I can only imagine because when that started happening for me, Keri, in those rooms that I've been in with you, I started I started actually expanding and evolving in my truth and who I am today because people started calling me lovingly forward and my whole my whole mindset started shifting because of that. So let's bring this back into like the mind. Okay. So what is it that happens in our minds, Keri, that stops us from really speaking our truth or revealing something that we might be scared of? Like what is happening in that moment?
What happens in our mind that stops us from speaking the truth or being the truth? Well, great question. Because my background is in psychology. I've been studying psychology for 30 years in and out of traditional education. And what I realized in my own journey, what stopped me in my mind? The mind actually stopped me. So it was the whole entity of the mind. Now, I'll unpack that a little bit further, but let's just go to the science of the mind. Our mind is designed in three parts, and the most primitive part of the mind is in the very back of the mind, and that the sole reason, the sole intention of the mind was designed to protect from fear. To fear-based mind. That's the most primitive part of our mind. So that's where instinctually we all go. It's to look out for the fear. And there's fear. There's not really fear all around us, but our mind's designed to operate from that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to speak our truth, our mind goes to fear. And we literally feel like, at times, I'm not saying everyone, but I have experienced this. I literally felt like I was dying if I spoke up. I literally felt like if I speak my truth or I speak on stage and thousands of people see me, I will die. That's the meaning my mind made up. And it wasn't even my mind making it up, it was my body speaking to me that way. So like my throat tightened, or it was like an outer body experience at times. um that's why our mind stops us. So our role in this lifetime is to, how do we navigate through the mind? How do we manage the mind? And this is where I went down the deep rabbit hole of mindset and being a mindset coach and integrating positive psychology, and I was on that path. And I realized I hit my upper limit because I was so focused, hyper focused on how do I manage my mind. And the mind was actually the limiter in this.
Mm.
It was limiting me. Now, the mind is infinite, and it was limiting me from accessing the soul. So how do
Wow.
we integrate, right? That's the key, is we can integrate. But what you said at the beginning, your plan didn't necessarily always play out, right? You said that in the intro, the first 10 minutes. And I want to highlight this because our plan is the mind, and God's plan or the soul's plan is beyond the mind. And that's why our plan doesn't always materialize, because there's a greater plan here. Now, our mind can plan all day long. And what happens when the plan doesn't work out? That's where
Often.
fear that's where fear comes in, right? Fear comes in. I'm a failure. What are they gonna think of me? How are they're not gonna be able to rely on me? I'm gonna look like XYZ. I'm gonna look like a fool, blah, 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 blah. That's our mind. So that was a long way to answer your question.
And it's like, how many of you out there relate to what just Keri just shared? Because our voice, we stop it from blooming and blossoming because we are operating from fear. Fear of not being liked, being too much, not enough, getting it wrong. And those are all, like she said, your mind is limiting in that way. Like your mind is so convincing, super convincing. Like, come on. When have you been able to override your mind to say, no, that's not my truth? Well, that's why we come into our body, right? List your body. What I've been noticing for me lately is that my body reacts first before my mind can catch up to what's actually happening. And your body is actually telling you the truth. Whether something is in alignment where it feels safe, like oh, all of a sudden I'm constricting. Why am I constricting? Oh, because I'm about to react or attack, or I'm feeling not seen, or whatever that is. And so let's bring it to the body, Keri. What role does the body play in those moments when the mind is limiting us from the truth or telling us stories, right? How does it support or block that expansion?
Great question. I think the body does it does block the expansion. And like you said, because the mind is in the body. So the mind is part of the body. When we look at the brain in psychology, right? The mind is, I believe, encapsulated in the mind is in the brain. The brain is part of our body. This is how I see it. And so it's also connected to the body. Now, the body is a limiter because of our autonomic nervous system, and it just reacts. Our body literally reacts, right? Like our voice trembles. I mean, I notice it in my own voice. Our voice can go really high, and then you can tell that you're a little nervous, right? Well, it's always speaking to us. So the question is, are we listening to the body? Is the body expressing our truth, or is it expressing a truth from the past? Which, if you've read The Body Keeps Score, it goes deep into that. Our body is expressing the past through an automatic response. So we can feel that fear show up in our body. It tenses, it stops. In business, we just don't move forward. We don't just pause, we sometimes stop. This doesn't feel safe. If you say no when your soul is saying yes. So the body is something we get to learn to navigate just like the mind. How often do you get this pit in your stomach? Now, we get to pause, like you said, you took a pause for a few weeks. You get to pause. Sometimes it's for 3 seconds, sometimes it's for 3 weeks. Sometimes it may look like 3 years or feel like 3 years because our
Mhm.
body's speaking to us. Now, that's where we reach our upper limit. And are we willing to stop, look, and choose that? Where there may be a cost involved from other people. That's the question. Are we willing to pay the cost of other people judging us, of making up a story, of not liking us? Are you to live in your truth?
I am. but I don't think that I always was, you know? It took a while for me to even understand what the costs were and how big the costs were. Can you just take us a little deeper on the importance of understanding the costs? Not that just what it's costing you, but what it's costing others when we contract or limit our voice or our blossoming in the world. Like, what is it actually costing us and costing others in the world?
Great question, because that terminology doesn't always resonate with a lot of my clients and students that I work with. And it's not until we really understand this concept of there's a cost that we're paying and other people are paying, until we connect with the cost, also the pain. It can be referred to as the pain or the limitation for some other words there. So, what does that mean? Now, once we connect with that pain, we have a clear choice. Does the pleasure outweigh the pain? So let's uncover what the cost is, the pain is. I believe that for every instance that we are not living in our truth, there is a pain that we're experiencing past, present, and future. So that's a little bit how I unpack it. So, what is the pain that's holding me back, that's just reappearing from the past, from my 6-year-old self, from my 7-year-old self, from the 8-year-old self? Now, I'm going to give you an example from my own life. So, that little girl that had the imaginary friend, that was me, Keri, at 3 and 4, there was a pain for me utilizing my voice. I was told I was that kid, that was that baby and that little toddler that had a huge screaming voice. Now I'm an Aries. My birthday's tomorrow, actually. So I'm fire. And Aries are fire. And we have big voices, big energy. We are known to be intense. I'm still told that many times. And I was shamed for being that intense little girl. So there's a pain there for utilizing my voice. I was sent to my room all day sometimes, sat there alone. So I associated using my voice with being alone, with not being loved, with being rejected.
Mm.
And that's why when I came to this level of my own career transition around age 40, I was terrified to use my voice because I associated all of those things with using my voice. I'm going to be rejected. I'm not going to be loved. I'm going to be alone. Um, I'm going to be shamed for my innate energy. So there's a cost there. Now, what is that costing my present self and my future self? That's the question. So it was costing me. There was a pain in not necessarily living my next level of potential, my next level of service, my next level. If I listened to that and I stayed where I was from the pain of the past and not utilizing my voice would not have reached 100 countries with my podcasts, right?
Mhm.
I would have not transformed thousands and thousands of people's lives. Now, I can say that currently for my own limit right now, because we each, like you said, reach our upper limit. And at every moment, we have the choice. Is it that 8-year-old, 7-year-old, 3-year-old self we're choosing from? Is it our present self where we feel the tension, the fear, the rejection, perhaps the not enough? Or is it really connecting with the future? Do I
Mhm.
want to hold back transforming thousands of people's lives? Even one person's life? Because one person can go transform 100,000 people, millions of people.
What question do you ask yourself in that moment when you feel yourself contracting, and choosing the limiting story versus the expansive story of that soul child wanting to express?
Well, this is part of the blossoming. It's part of recognizing, wow, I'm blossoming here and it's uncomfortable and there's tension. So it's always for me curiosity. Number one, what is this telling me? Why am I feeling this way? So through questioning, curiosity, we can't be judgmental and curious simultaneously. And if you start with a question, when, where, why, how, question for ourselves, that's being curious. So one is asking curious questions to myself. Another one is love. Love is missing in that moment. Love
Mm.
is always the answer. And being curious is a form of love. So being loving to self. And then those are the top two is curiosity, love, and I go even another layer of love is that compassion. She wanted compassion. And though, love is the root, curiosity is a branch from that, compassion is another. So I recognize that little girl. What did she want? Did she just sometimes it's, wrapping yourself in a hug.
Mm.
Sometimes it's telling her it's okay. It's telling her what she really needed to hear. Like one of my programming was I never felt like I was enough, especially for my father. That's a father wound. How many other people can relate? So it was never enough. All I wanted in those times where I accomplished something, I wanted a sense of pride. I wanted someone to say, I'm proud of you.
Mm.
So I had this core wound around blossoming into my own self through I associated pride with like rejection or not being loved or not feeling good enough. So every time I accomplished something, and until this was uncovered about 2 or 3 years ago, I was so happy that I found this core wound, which was around the pain associated with pride. So I don't know why I brought that up, but there's moments where we're blossoming and there can be some pain associated with it. And being curious and loving and compassionate was and is the answer for me. What about
Mm.
you?
Well, first off, oh my gosh, just like me, first of all, yes, just like me. This is why it's so beautiful to have these conversations because the more you actually have these real conversations, you start to see like your own story blooming in another's, because yes, what I'm hearing you say is right before you're going to hit your upper limit like expansion moment of your truth, your authentic, soulful truth, you start to feel the pain. You start to constrict because you feel like the fear. What if I'm not safe? I'm going to be judged. All those things that we experienced as in childhood. And there's that pain that we're still holding on to that stops us because that pain, even though that pain is not currently happening, it's still real in our minds and it's so real in our bodies that it really prevents us from moving forward because I remember hearing this quote, and I think it's so perfect to share now. It's like your body and your nervous system and your mind is going to choose the familiar hell versus choosing an unfamiliar heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, yes, just like me, like I'm grateful that I'm in a place now that I get curious without judgment and criticism. And life is messy, like I said early on. Like I get to be messy. It's okay. I get to upset people when I speak my truth. It's okay. It just means that they're seeing me from their belief of their upper limits. As long as I know my intention is loving and not to be rude or mean or be right, like it's gonna help them. Even though if they don't receive it in the moment, Just like me, I bet you they're probably thinking about it and reflecting on it. And you probably help them shift in some way. Because if they're anything like me, and I realize that most people are a lot like me, just wanting to be loved, seen for their truths and held in their light. But also, we all want to expand too, past our pain. We want to like blossom and bloom into our purposeful work. And we don't realize that people who we ourselves hold us small, but there are people who also hold us small in our lives. We actually train them to teach us. To like we train them to treat us a certain way. We train them like this is who I am. So like if I start being somebody else, you better call me out. So when we start to try to show up in our light and in our truth and in our expansion, like it throws people off. And then sometimes I know for me, I speak for myself, I started wondering, like, am I doing it wrong? Like, what am I doing wrong right now? Like, I feel like I'm changing and I'm growing and I evolving and I'm a better version of myself today than I was even just yesterday. Why is it not resonating for people? Well, that's why, because we actually taught and trained people how to be with us. Are you experiencing any of that when you have reached your upper limits and expanded in your voice and bloomed?
Well, absolutely. We do. We're all humans. Like I said, we're navigating this human experience. And when it comes to the psychology term of it and why this happens, it's from conditioning, right? So we condition ourselves to thrive in certain environments until that environment no longer supports us to thrive.
Mm.
So when we talk about blooming, yes, I have experienced this, and in my seasons of expansion, it has made other people feel very uncomfortable. And it has made people question, what are you doing? This is not sustainable. I don't understand it. Um, just made people question my actions, my behaviors, who I was becoming and blossoming into. Now, that's because they were conditioned and I was conditioned until I chose a different condition and environment. So that word condition can have multiple meanings there. Now, I want to talk about seasons of blooming because the conditions vary now. So we are, when I look at our blooming stages and our expansion stages as seasons. Now, ironically, we have just come upon a new season, right, of spring right now. And spring is all about blossoming. This is why you have chosen the title of blossoming your voice. I don't know if I've frozen right now, but it's ironic. Margarita, can you hear me? The season of blossoming. So there's what happens before the season of blossoming is the pause of winter. Can you hear me? All right. So the season of blossoming. The season of blossoming is a season that we are in today, as we have just transitioned from one season to another. From winter, where it feels like everything dies off, to the season of spring, when things start blooming, when the conditions vary. I'll wait for Margarita Rose to come back in. What are you noticing in the season? This is why overperformance doesn't work, because in each season, we are asked a different version of ourselves. So what season are you in? And what are you blossoming into? That's my question for you.
That was so weird. As
We are back.
soon as you blew, you said like we just started spring, I just went. That's what the last thing I heard you say. All right, so we're gonna go live again, and then do you remember what you were saying? So we can go from there.
Yes. Well, how ironic that when
I
we
know.
sprung into a new season,
It was like there's
something
something else.
new, something
Uh-huh.
new, something got to die and something gets to be reborn.
Yes.
And so,
But wait, before you go on, I gotta start recording and live streaming again. Oh, we're still live
well,
streaming.
we never stop live streaming on
Oh,
YouTube.
nice. Okay. It's a good
This
thing I
is
didn't do anything weird.
this is how
Yeah.
this is how powerful we all are and how our plan is different than sometimes our soul's plan. So, I was saying that we are in a transition, or we have just experienced a huge transition of one season to another, right? And this is what blossoming your voice is. This is why you chose this topic for the episode, right?
I
Is
did. Yeah.
blossoming the voice. And this is how we all can best navigate the human experience, is really working with the seasons. This is what I was going into. And that's why I don't see anything right or wrong here about it. Just is about pausing with the seasons. And this is why overperformance no longer works, and not even just in this world of AI, but just in this, it's not sustainable overperformance because it's going against working with the seasons. It's going against the cycles of blooming, blossoming, ripening, and then what? Something gets to die off. And so we just experienced that with the transition of the seasons, in the sense of winter, right? There's a reason in winter when we have 4 seasons that things stop, that they contract, that they die off.
Stillness.
Stillness. And we prune, like there's pruning in that. And so there's so much power in the pause. So when we go back to you ask, like, what do we do in the moment when our body's speaking to us? We pause and be okay in the pause, be loving in the pause, be compassionate in the pause. And as I work a lot with many different modalities, and one of them is astrology, and I've really dove deeper and deeper into astrology and working that with my business and with clients as well. So part of what's just happened astrologically is the planets are speaking to us. They asked us to pause. Okay, we had Mercury retrograde. We just came out of Mercury retrograde this month. At the spring solstice, by the way. And
I still
so
don't know what that means, but I feel it.
Mercury retrograde is a time where it can feel like a contraction. Okay, so it's a planet like pulling back instead of springing forward. And in the times that the planets actually retrograde, so planets are always typically always retrograding. This is a whole astrological. I'm not going to go deep into astrology here, but I just want to
Why
highlight
not?
that
Just go. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
astrology is something that you can look into to support your blossoming of your voice. And this is why at one season you may be blossoming, Margarita, and others feel like they got to step back and pause
Mm.
because but what I was going into is about the seasons are working for us, the astrology is working for us, and when we're in a retrograde season, we get to work with those. And for example, I will never, well, not say never, but I do not like to have launches, like certain launch things in business in a Mercury retrograde because it's going to be working against us.
Oh.
And
Hey,
at
you hear
this
that,
moment,
guys? Did you hear that? Just go back for a second. Okay, go ahead.
if you're in business, Mercury, during the Mercury retrogrades, they are not the best times to launch any new product, any new service, any like new uh podcast book. There, it's going to work against you. Now there are seasons, and I want to bring this back. We can look into it in astrology, we can look into it to the four seasons. Like everyone knows, the four seasons, we're in spring, so we're in a blossoming. Now ironically, right now there are no planets in retrograde. So if you're thinking about speaking your truth, if you're speaking about launching something, if you're thinking about moving forward into a new identity, this is the time. It's also Aries season. It's also the year of the horse. So
The
everything's
fire
working.
horse.
The fire horse, everything is working for you right now. And us. And it's okay. This is going back to the price that we're willing to pay. Are we willing to have other people judge us during those times where we need to take a pause? We need to stop. We need to go inward because the pause is the soul speaking.
Mm. Oh, oh, oh my God, girl. You just mic dropped right there. The pause is the soul speaking. Finish. I just needed to highlight that for a second.
And this is what I love. This is what I know my life's purpose is, and I love that you share that your life purpose is joy. Because joy is something where I am still learning a relationship with joy because I thought joy was something that you do, and really it's something that you be.
It's not a
So
reward. Mm.
it's not a reward. It's not,
Choice. It,
I would make
it's a
a
choice.
to-do list. I would make a to-do list of doing joy. So joy is like is my stretch, is being joy. Now going back to my purpose, I know, is to connect people with their soul. And it's out, it's not in the mind. The soul does not exist in the mind. We can access it through the mind, but it defies the conditions of the mind. Now bringing it back to something personal, where can you know that your soul speaks to you? Well,
Mm. Ask it again.
where do you know that your soul speaks to you?
Mm.
So it's going to defy logic. It many times it defies logic. So I'm going to share when I knew my soul, and looking back, my soul was guiding me. Because remember, our plan is the mind. Our soul's plan is beyond the mind. Um, I was living in, I spent about 2 years living in Costa Rica. Now, my plan wasn't actually to live in Costa Rica for that amount of time. I was back and forth. I studied in Costa Rica for a year, for 6 months, and then went back to Costa Rica for a 2 week vacation. That was my plan. Now, the day before I was flying back home to San Diego, this was back in 2003. No, 2004, I'm sorry. And I got on the payphone. There were payphones back then, and there may still be payphones in Costa Rica. But I got on the payphone, and I don't even know how I made this international call. I don't even remember how payphones work. It was this long ago. But I got on the payphone and I called my parents, and I was 20 something, but I thought I should tell my parents, don't go to the airport tomorrow to pick me up because I'm not coming home.
Hmm.
Now I heard a few cursing words on the other side of the payphone, and at that point you could hang. I'm surprised I didn't hear slamming down on the phone, but it made no sense. And I'm sharing this story because it didn't make sense to my parents, and it didn't actually make sense to me in the moment. But I knew that it was a calling. It was something that I chose to do. It was my truth in the moment. My truth was I was staying there. Nobody could talk me out of it. So looking back, um, it was about a month later, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks later, my now husband arrived in Costa Rica. We started working together at a restaurant, and 22 years later, we're still together, my husband and I. Yet, if I didn't listen to my soul's plan in that moment, which was outside of my mind, I would not have the life I was living. I would not have the 2 children. I would have never met that partner that was on my soul, that was part of my soul's plan. So that's just an example. Now I share that because there's some experience in your life that you made a choice from your truth that defied logic, but it was part of your soul's plan because we all have a greater plan than our mind can conceive.
I'm getting really emotional about what you're sharing, you know, because if I'm being honest with you right now, the reason why I didn't record the last 2 episodes is because that life that I chose with a partner has been disrupting that that expansion, that blossoming, that voice. And for the longest time I wanted to make him the problem or that choice the issue. But you know the beautiful thing? I wouldn't be here today had I not made that choice. My soul knew that in order for me to blossom into the version of myself that I'm meant to be and express my voice in this podcast, I never thought I would have a podcast. I never even thought that I would be here doing this, like so not me. I don't like attention. I like attention, but not this attention, like it's very interesting. And I love that you shared that because we often want to be the martyr or to be the victim or to use our life experience as the the scarlet letter. But the truth is, like, when you're listening to your soul, and most of us do, even though we don't recognize it in the moment, our soul is always choosing, getting us back on track with the truth of who we are. If you keep experiencing the same hardships, the same story, the same pattern, it's because you haven't actually come to terms with why and where it comes from. And so if you want to shift your life, you get to pause and come from a place of neutrality, grace, and forgiveness for yourself, first of all. People aren't going to forgive you if you don't forgive yourself. People aren't going to hear you if you don't hear yourself. People aren't going to give you love if you do not give yourself love. How would you finish that, Keri?
Amen.
We're going to add more because there's so much more there. But yes, amen is
Amen.
enough.
If you ever want to experience yourself speaking truth, Margarita, go back and listen and witness how you expressed yourself right there. There's nothing more to be said. At times it doesn't require more words or more doing or checking off more lists.
It's not about the doing, is what I'm hearing. It's not about the doing. We get to just be in our truth and our love and our expansion, doing it scared, but trusting and forgiving ourselves and giving ourselves grace when we're grappling something new, because for all these years we have been operating on a false identity, on a false truth to keep us safe. And now that we're exploring, because like when you reach a point of no return, that is your soul saying, okay, girlfriend, I've been trying to tell you what you're doing is not who you be, who you are, and who you're meant to be in the world. So now you get to just like straddle up, be accountable, and give yourself the love and the parenting that you once wished you had. That inner child that is sitting there waiting to be seen, that version of you that is waiting to be acknowledged, you get to do that for yourself first, my friend and my sister and everybody out there. Like, you get to do that for yourself first, because no one else is going to be the one doing it for you, because they're stuck in their own story. They're stuck still trying to do that for themselves. So stop waiting for others to tell you you're enough. Tell yourself that you're enough. Know that you're enough, just as you are. If you want to connect with Keri and find out what she's causing and creating in the world, her links will be in the show notes. And I really recommend anybody out there who is getting stuck in their upper limits, who still doesn't understand their upper limits, who's still getting stuck between mind and body and not listening to the soul. Like, this woman alone is somebody who's embodied all three that I know personally. So I'm so grateful to have her here, because the truth is, what's waiting to emerge? What's waiting within you to blossom right now? Because you get to trust it. You get to trust that that is where you get to go next. So, in everything that you heard, Keri, there is something that I remember hearing in the rooms. What am I pretending not to know? So, in all of this, you heard me share. What am I pretending not to know, or what are we pretending not to know?
What are we pretending not to know? Well, I'll stand in truth right now is that we have all been deceived.
Hmm.
So there is a level of deceivement that our current identity is reflecting, whether that's self-identity or what we're witnessing in the world. So what we pretend not to know is the level and the depth of deception or misperception of who we are and what is happening. in the world. So, what I'm calling you and everyone here to be is the light. The light, like we see above us in our backgrounds. The light will shine through the deception of the misperception, and the light will support us all to live in truth through discernment. Discernment doesn't always exist in the mind. Now, I think that it discernment is a mind, body, soul calibration. So it's not just mind, the information that we're hearing, it's beyond that. It's in our bodies. It's in the silence where we connect with our soul. So that's what I'm calling you forward, and everyone listening here is be the light, choose the light, and discernment is your greatest tool now and moving forward to uncover your truth. And so there's two ways that I work with people. One is I connect people with their souls, women mainly. I connect women with their souls and with their soul guides, and that's through the Akashic Records. And the other way that I work with my clients is through calibrations. So they're literally called calibration sessions. They're private intensives. And this is how I call myself like a chiropractor of the soul, basically. It's we get to
Love
calibrate.
that.
We get to calibrate mind, body, and soul. We have a soul and we have these guides along us that are holding up the mirrors that are helping us discern. So that's my invitation for everyone. Be the light, choose the light. And love is always the answer. That's the truth.
Love is always the answer. Yes, I have recognized that we are at the soul level pure love. Pure love. Bottom line, period, end of sentence. So I'm asking you out there right now, what are you pretending not to know? And how are you being the sole provider of your own contraction? So this conversation today is really a testament to what blossoming actually looks like. And it's not about perfection, and it's not about performance. But as Keri so beautifully eloquated, is that a word? I don't know. It's about presence, truth, and then choice. And then being authentic to that inner child who's always just wanted to be seen, heard, and held in her truth, in her light, in her wisdom. Like we had so much wisdom so young, right? Like,
Yeah,
but like conditioned to be like, you're just a child, you don't know anything, just shut up.
because
So, and
wisdom lies in the soul. That's why.
yes,
And when we're children, we are operating from soul versus mind. And I really wrote
you're so
the I just want to highlight that. Wisdom exists in the soul because
mm,
it carries lifetimes and lifetimes.
I just needed that to land. I'm not I'm pausing on purpose. It needs to land. Wisdom comes from the soul. And your inner child, that version of you that you already knew was so sure that you annoyed your parents about, oh, your true purpose. So just connect back to her. Connect back to that soul wisdom. Don't let the the mind talk you out of it. Listen to your body when you're starting to contract because you're about to say or do something that's out of that comfort zone that's keeping you safe. And that is where blossoming into your voice and blossoming into your next level, it's just that one moment, that one choice, that one second that you either get to choose to pause, take a breath, and be like, okay, is this true? Is this something that I'm trying to be right about? Or is it like just my truth? And it gets to still be shared. Why didn't I show up today? Oh, was I being in alignment with my truth? Was I people pleasing? Was I trying to perform in this moment? But as Keri said, like, don't be critical about yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't hold yourself small. Just get curious, be neutral about it, and really just come to a place of recognizing that inner child is still there. That soul's wisdom is still there. So when you get that little spidey sense or that little like whisper, like that small, it's sometimes even hard to hear these days, right, Keri? And the noise in the world and the chaos in the world, it's really hard to hear that little whisper. So one last question to you because it's coming up for me. Like, how do you discern? Because discernment came up a few times, right? So discernment for me, yes, we are. Discernment for me is like literally discerning from truth, fear, and wisdom. How do you do that?
Truth, fear, and wisdom. I'm going to share a quote, and I think this is going to support. I use quotes as tools because I can tell you how to do it. Yet there's been people preceding me that have left clues, right? And so I'm going to share a quote to wrap it up. Although I want to first say that how you discern is really the way that I've trained myself to work in different modalities, like connecting people to their soul. It's a different vibrational tone. It's a different when it comes to the discernment in your voice, it'll be a different frequency. It'll be a different tone. So I want to share a quote by Viktor Frankl. And he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose a response. And literally, it goes back, science has proven it. So we see from stimulus to response, we see that there actually is a space. So unless we create the space to hear the voice, it'll be the limit to blossoming. It'll be the limit to the discernment. So we must, as a tool, create the space. And we must start training ourselves. So it's just like any skill. It's reconditioning ourselves. We get to recondition that before the blossom, there is a pause. So there's no right or wrong here. It's everyone's truth. It looks different. We each have our own masterpiece of a life. And to be in ownership of that. That's our truth. To be in ownership. I can't hear you now, Margarita.
Yes,
There we
I've
go.
muted myself. So I just want to say, like, there's so much in that I want to like keep going, but I want to honor the time. And I know that we went a little over because there was some blossoming spring problems that we came across. It's almost like the universe said, I don't know if the collective is ready to hear this yet. Like that's the way I hear it, you know?
Well, they
Anyway.
are.
They are ready.
We are.
If as long as they stay tuned in, like if you're ready to hear it, you heard it. But I just want to say thank you so much. You shared so much wisdom and truth, and the way that you shared it was like landed in my body so differently and in my soul as a reminder of like, yes, I get to still make that muscle. I can't go to the gym once and then expect to have like all this great body or gym abs or anything. It's I practiced my whole life being this version of myself. And so when I am reclaiming my authority as the true version of myself, it's going to take some practice. So thank you for that reminder. Thank you for that permission. Thank you for the truth that really just flowed from you today. And I just want to just honor you and the work that you do, because I know that you're helping shift so many people. And in that work, you're evolving and expanding yourself too. So thank you.
We all are. Thank you so much, Margarita. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. So to all of you out there, if something in you stirred today, if something felt familiar, if something felt true, if something felt sacred, don't leave it here. Don't walk away. This work is not going to mean anything if it's done alone or if it's left in a space of questioning. You're invited into my space. We have a group at there these where these women are all part of, that you can ask questions and you can come in sistership and you can come in collaboration and community, because we rise together stronger when we're not in competition, when we're in collaboration and in love with each other. So practice. It's about practicing your new truth. So be supported. Choose to support yourself. One of the things I realized is how little I was receiving love and compliments in my life. So where do you get to receive the love and the joy that you bring others in this circle? So the links will be provided underneath. If you want to, like I said, go deeper with Keri and find out what she's doing in causing and creating any upcoming workshops, she's going to drop her link also in the show notes. Because the truth is, you're not broken. You're just simply becoming. So the truth is, allow yourself to bloom. So keep rising, keep coming home, because you matter and you're enough exactly as you are. And you're not late and you're not behind. You're just simply right on time. You're right on time. So stop comparing yourself to others. So remember, coming home to you is not a destination, it's a devotion. I am Margarita Rose, your host today with Keri Knudtson, my dear friend and like soul sister. Oops, there we go. My soul sister from another mister, here to say to you, you are worthy and you matter exactly as you are. We'll see you next week. Same time, same spark channel. Unless my upper limit comes calling again. Bye bye.